got my, as everyone's pointed out this morning, my very shiny, virtually unused hockey gloves. I look like Darth Vader in these things. But we've reenacted what I think, Jake, is maybe our most famous tip.
It's an all-time great.
I don't know about famous, but most memorable. How about that?
Yeah.
In June 2007?
Yes, June 2007. It's an all-timer.
It's an all-time. By the way, I should say that for the 25th anniversary of Flagstick and Flagstick Golf Magazine and Flagstick.com, we're doing videos to kind of commemorate 5-year increments. And this is our biggie, our feature. Every year for Flagstick, for the last at least, well, since 2007 for sure, we've done a feature for the cover. And this one was all about sports. And I actually hit a golf ball. I'm about to do it again today in my 50s now. And hit a ball in skates to prove balance and stability and using that inside edge in your backswing a bit. So
yeah, I think we use metaphors for other sports a lot in our teaching and how to understand the golf swing. And I think there's no better way to kind of understand those metaphors and understand the athletic motion of the golf swing than bringing them into play. So it's awesome.
Yeah, the two things I say, I remember telling the stories or writing the intro, and one was that I had a lot of Ottawa Senators come out practicing, using the facility, taking a few lessons. And a lot of these really great athletes in other sports will say golf's the hardest sport I've ever played. And
I hear that a lot, yeah.
My contention is always, no, it's not. If you keep it athletic and logical, and if you get some coaching, right? Because, as I pointed out to one of the NHLers way a long time ago, when you grew up, you were skating pylons, you were doing coaching, you were having great coaching, you were learning your edges, you were doing drills every morning at 6 o'clock for how many years, to develop your skill set. But then it's time to play golf, and we grab a set of clubs and off we go. And very few people take lessons. I think statistically it's under 20% of people ever take a golf lesson.
Yeah, no, I mean, I couldn't agree with you more. And especially when golf, I don't think it's as hard as it is demanding when you make a mistake, right? I think in other sports, we have the benefit of being a reactive game. When you make a mistake, you get to try again, shoot the puck again, shoot the basketball again, as long as you get the rebound. But in golf, you hit your shot and you got to go deal with that shot.
I've always said it's like, maybe a round of golf is like 72 field goals. Each one's important. You have to reset and it matters again. You reset and it matters again. So it's a little more demanding, but I think those athletes also just feel that it's just so hard because basically they don't understand how it works and what they should be trying to do. And as soon as you get a good athlete understanding the path of the club and understanding the motion of the body, they improve pretty quickly.
Couldn't agree more.
So there's a lesson for everybody. Take a couple of lessons and just think about athleticism. The other point I make in the intro in the famous June 2007 feature is that, very few people treat it athletically when they're over the ball. They're getting tips here and there, and they're trying to put their body in certain positions, and they're thinking of it too much analytically instead of thinking of it just as this rhythmic, balanced, athletic motion. And if you do that, just let the club swing, relax, and that too maybe can help you out a little bit, right?
Totally. I mean, golf is a sport. It might be little micro-athletic motions amongst walking between golf shots, so it's paced differently than most sports, but it is a sport. And if you remember that and treat yourself like an athlete, I think hitting the ball simply is an easier thing to do.
Yeah, swing the club. Let it swing a little bit, and then get a little bit of coaching, and off you go. Anyway, that's the general message. I know it's been my message here at the golf school for 30 years now. We've been talking about this and then using all these teaching aids. It's so fun, I look back at this stuff and we've got a baseball glove we'll use today. We've got a bat, we've got a tennis racket, we've got a frisbee.
Football, medicine ball, everything.
And of course the skates. The skates are coming out.
For sure.
Yeah, so I'm really looking forward to it. Let's get on with it and teach people how to play this game a little bit better. You're having some fun with it. Okay, so number one is posture. You ready for that?
I am.
What are we going to use? Leaf through that magazine and let's see what we're using for posture.
Well, I think there's a couple of great examples.
Can I take my gloves off yet?
I think.
Okay, let me take my gloves off.
I think there's a couple great examples of posture. In the magazine, you'll see how we used a baseball bat and a baseball glove to get you ready to go. I think in terms of the bat, the idea is you want to act like you're at plate, right? You want to have that loaded flex, get ready to then be able to move forward and hit something. And with the glove, it's the same thing as when you're catching the ball, right? You want to make sure that you're loaded.
Yeah, ready
ready to go.
posture, ready to go, whether from face on or down the line. So in the actual tip, you could do the face on one a little bit, Jake, with your.
Perfect.
That's your old ball glove from when you were 12.
Yes.
But you know, I kind of point out, and we've actually turned this bat since we did this tip into a teaching aid. We've glued a golf club onto the end of it to kind of really explain it to people. But the basic premise is, if I'm at the plate waiting to hit, I'm flexed, my bum is back, and I'm really balanced, and I'm ready to kind of swing that bat. And so this is my kind of balance. And then when I hold a golf club, it's very similar actually. The bum is down and back, the weight's in the middle of my feet, my back is nice and straight. I'm in a nice athletic posture. And I would say most people would play baseball the same way, but then they grab a golf club maybe, and they either get very stiff and rigid and do something silly like that, or most people will bend forward and round their backs and really get down because the ball's on the ground. So the tip is, think about how you would stand over a baseball bat. You can even stand like this with your golf club and kind of get ready and flexed, and then just put your arms down. And it's not the identical position, but it's kind of similar.
Well, I think the parallel for whatever sport you play to works great, right? If you're a point guard in basketball, if you're getting ready to hit somebody in football, get ready, you know, on the blue line tonight, hockey. I mean, obviously, when you're going to get knocked over in other sports, you might be a little lower, but the premise is the same. The way to send it in your feet. You
anchor yourself and get set to go.
Totally. Right? Your bum goes back, so you tilt your chest forward. Your back is straight, not because you tried to keep it straight, but because when you tilt forward, there's no reason for it not to be straight, and you're good to go.
All right, so you get ready as a shortstop, put that glove on your knees there, and you know, get ready to go. And the point in the magazine was the same thing. There's the guard in basketball, the goalie in soccer. But when you look at Jake, you can see the bridge of his nose and his face, right? I mean, he's not bent forward. This is what we see in most videos we'll take with golf, is you get this look, where all you see is the crown of the person's ball cap or head. And that's because they're bent forward way too much out of balance. So if you do it properly, and we do something like this, you can see that when I look up, I don't even have to tilt my head, and I can see the camera, and you can see my eyes. So I stand more like this over a golf ball, instead of standing, you know, like this.
For a lot of people, a good term is that your head is up with your spine, but you're looking down.
Yeah.
Right? As opposed to your head being down, because that restricts your ability to move. But when you get balanced, your feet are usually about shoulder width. I mean, maybe a little more narrow for a pitching edge, or a little obviously wider for a driver.
Yep.
But you're in the middle of your feet, your weight is centered, you're in a position where you're balanced and ready to go.
Ready to go, that's the term, right?
Totally.
I mean, and what I tell everybody is the more balanced you are, the more athletic you are, the easier it is to stay in balance while that golf club or baseball bat or anything else swings around you. So that's the premise. So think about those other sports, everyone. Like we say, you can stand like this, kick your bum down, and then just grab your golf club and get that type of posture. You can swing your club up like it's a baseball bat and feel what you'd feel like in the middle of your feet here, and then just set your arms down. You can really get the idea by looking at baseball or other sports to what balanced athletic posture is.
Absolutely. You stand like an athlete, you'll hit a ball like one too.
Perfect. All right, Jake, so one of my favorites has always been, when teaching, really about the big muscle movement of the swing, the body motion of the swing, is throw a frisbee or a little backhand in tennis. And we used this back in 2007 or 8? Seven. June 2007. Wow. That's 14 years ago.
It is.
How old were you 14 years ago?
I guess I would have been 15 years old.
Oh, yeah. Just entering lovely teenage years.
Yeah, your favorite.
Fantastic.
Yeah.
All right, so want to talk a little bit today about that wind-up and how similar it is to other sports. And I think the flaws people have, if I just swing a golf club, let me jump in front here a bit, and I just work on rotating back and moving my body properly into a backswing, I'm really just winding my upper body over my lower body, and then I allow my lower body to turn into that back leg. But the upper body is definitely the bigger mover, and the lower body, while it accepts the weight and moves, is a little more limited, or even restricting a little bit, right? Controlling what my upper body does.
Yeah, I think the word, it's got to feel like you resist the turn of your upper body is maybe the best word for it. Your upper body winds, then that brings your abdomen, your core around, your hips turn with your body, and then that back leg kind of feels like a little battery pack, a power plant, and then as you turn into it, there's a little bit of resistance here which creates that torque and allows you then to move forward into the golf
Yeah, that's
ball.
a new term we use, calling that back leg your anchor and your battery pack. So I think the changing in my teaching, or our teaching, since 2007 is I used to say keep that back leg pretty still and keep your hips level. Your hips really don't stay level. That terminology was a little faulty. What happens is your waist stays level, but you need to allow that a little bit of a deep turn into that back hip to get the wind up, right? And I didn't talk a lot about that back in 2007. I just talked about keeping the lower body quiet as you turn the upper body. But it's important to understand that we need that lower body to be restricted? I don't know. But active. Allow the weight to move into that leg without being really static, right? So I think that's changed a little bit for me over the years.
Yeah, I mean, look, we understand more about the actual physiology than we used to refer to. Right now we talk about the hips as the literal hip joints as opposed to where your belt is. I mean, we've just got more specific, but I think being more specific about that stuff has made us more educated.
And accurate too. I think accurate.
Better
You can tell
expressing this idea.
Yeah, anyway, waist stays level, hips kind of move, rotate into the back leg, and that's the kind of action we want, but you do need to still have a quiet lower body. And of course, the two things we use, Jake, is a Frisbee, which I still use today all the time. So, you know, if you look at how you would throw a Frisbee, you really just take a bit of a wide stance, probably for stability, if you're not running around while you're doing it. And then just turn the back to the target. So that's a true wind up. And I can actually feel the weight going into this leg, just like I want to feel in golf. So the upper body's the mover, the lower body moves on the way down, but on the way back, we're kind of turning into that leg a little bit, right?
Yeah, you feel tension in your muscles because you're coiling up. I mean, we have this tennis racket that we use so much. We put a golf club into it to show face control and how it relates to this idea as well.
Yeah.
But you coil into your back leg by turning your upper body. I mean, you wind up like a giant spring. I can feel a little tension in here, a little stretch in my obliques on this side, and then that allows me to send that energy a lot like that backhand in tennis or the Frisbee you just threw. I mean,
Yeah.
different visuals to explain the same idea, and I think if you go across a lot of sports, you'll see this stuff.
Take that racket back for me for a sec. We'll finish up here, but there Jake is wound up. The other neat thing is you see he keeps his spine angle he started with, or his spine tilt he started with. And you can definitely see the weight going into that leg. And if I swing my golf club up, you're going to see many of the same characteristics, right? We're in a very similar position here, wound up and ready to unwind into the downswing. That's cool.
Yeah, it's good. I mean, obviously,
Good job.
a little more horizontal in tennis, so there's a verticality in the golf swing too, and I think that's where people get confused. But if you remember, the body wants to unwind and unwind this whole thing.
Yeah, the
as well.
body is a rotary mover in the golf swing. The arms are vertical swingers, and they're heading in the same direction in the backswing, but they're taking different paths. So you've got to keep that body winding up into itself in posture, and then you'll hit better, stronger shots instantaneously if you can get it right.
Yeah.
All right, Jake. So now we're stepping to the plate. We are. Kind of a similar part of the tip, and let's be honest, if you're teaching proper athletic motion, things bleed into other things all the time. But we're talking now about your back pivot post and maintaining the integrity of the back leg so you can move forward. And way back in 2007, I used a baseball batter standing there, and I really like the idea of a baseball batter because it's so natural looking. It's just kind of standing, waiting. A baseball batter doesn't try to wind up like crazy, so it's a nice comparison for people who overwind or overshift and do too much in their backswings, right?
Yeah, absolutely it is. I mean, it's a very simple parallel about coiling your body in an effort to, in baseball's case, step to the pitcher and hit the ball as hard as you can.
Yeah, so let's get up there, man. Look at that pitcher. I know you don't play baseball, but the concept is there. And we're really going to focus in this tip on the back pivot post and that angle right there. Go back to the start, Jake, whatever you would call the start, the middle, and then swing back, and you'll see that that angle doesn't change, right? So what you're actually doing in baseball is you're kind of planting, digging that back foot in a little bit.
Yeah, I feel a lot of weight or pressure on the inside of this foot.
Yeah, and you'd never see a baseball batter give me an over rotation or a sway. I mean, you would never see a baseball batter moving to the outside of their leg or over rotating their hips, because then you can't even see the pitcher. So it's a very natural position, right? We stand there, Jake, we just look at that batter and hold that bat and we stay loose. And we're almost rehearsing that forward move a little bit, right? Where in baseball, we actually step.
Yeah.
What do we do in golf?
Well, in golf, we call it posting up. But another term for it is you bump your hip forward, which really simulates that step. It's just much less movement because we have to hit the golf ball accurately. And then we rotate through the golf ball from there. So it's a very similar motion between the two sports. It's just much less dramatic in golf.
Yeah, we do learn, I guess, those two things from it. The first is that pivot post, stays the same. We rotate and we keep that angle so we can then step. In baseball, we're going to step and clear. And in golf, we're going to bump and turn. But they're very similar motion. I guess we're clearing in golf as well. They're very similar motion. It doesn't really matter the sport you're playing either. Whether you're kicking a ball, right, you would step and then rotate the hip and then extend the leg. It's
Absolutely.
the same concept. But the thing that's really important for people to understand from that baseball comparison is that back leg is pretty stable. Well, it's very stable. It's flexed, the weight's on the inside of it, and there's no effort to kind of straighten it or turn it or shift it over, right? That's a mistake most golfers do make, or high handicappers make at least.
Yeah, I mean, look, we talked about it in the winding tip, right? How you want your hips to turn and you want that energy to load. But if you do that properly, everybody, that angle should never change because my knee is turning. It's not shifting out away, or I'm not pivoting my hips onto my lead leg, right?
Yeah.
I'm turning everything into that back leg, so this post stays strong. And that
less
gives
movement than you think. Less movement than you think.
Yeah, in most cases. And that gives me the structure to then shift the weight in my feet and then rotate through, which will maximize my power.
Yeah, there it is, everybody. I don't even mind when I have a new player, someone who moves too much in their backswings. I'll have them just hold their golf club like a baseball bat and kind of step and turn a few times. And I've never seen a golfer, when I ask them to do this, do anything crazy back here, right? It's the simplicity of this setup to then move and rotate and make room for the golf club in the arms. It's the same in golf as it is in baseball. You think you could hit a baseball? If it was being thrown at you at 90 miles an hour?
I'm sure you give me a few tries, I'll figure it out, I guess.
I'm not sure. I can hit a golf ball. But anyway, we'll practice our baseball later. That's your tip, everybody. Keep that back pivot post intact. All right, Jake, time for another part of that feature from 2007. And this one deals with the trailing arm, the back arm, I used to call it. Now I kind of call it the trailing arm.
Yeah.
But where to put it, how to set it to properly swing back into the golf ball. And I like to talk about the top of backswing position as a second setup or a delivery position. The most important thing about your backswing is that you're in a position where you could deliver the club properly. And I think if you hold up your football there and I hold up my baseball, you'll see that if you're going to throw it, you put it in a specific position to be able to then release and throw. And golfers just get carried away. Tell me the two things they do the most.
Yeah,
what do you see on the tee?
So I think there's two main problems. I think problem number one is that people will either lift their arm too much or separate their arm from their body and allow the elbow to get too far behind their bodies. Or in reaction to that, they try to pin their elbow too close to their ribs in an effort to fix the fact that their arm looks awkward in this position, and that causes a litany of problems as well. So essentially, they either keep it too close to them or they let it drift too far away from them.
Too much.
Yeah.
Exaggerating and a little misunderstanding. There's a lot to chew on there, so let's talk about it. So as a person swings the club up, one of the big flaws is that chicken wing or that lifting where the elbows separate and we try to get really high and vertical, thinking it's a bigger, stronger swing. And that, of course, is troubling. If you look at where you are to throw that football, get ready again, have that elbow down, that nice L position. So when you swing to the top in golf, you want that arm in an L position. You don't want it separating and spreading and lifting.
And I would say the same thing from this angle too. You want your shoulder to be in a nice, almost 90-degree angle. You don't want your joint of your shoulder to open up and allow that arm to drift behind your body, because then it's going to be very difficult to have your arm catch up to you.
Your club stays in front of you, right? So we always say that if you watch me swing, my elbows are pretty close. And as I swing up here, my elbows are still together. And if I take this arm off, you can see, as Jake said, if it floats a bit, it's okay, but there's almost a 90-degree angle here. So your arms are in position in front of your chest. They're not behind your head. We see this so much. I can barely do this, but people do it all the time. They overwind and they get way back here. And if you just think of trying to throw a ball from this position, it's a little silly, actually.
It doesn't feel very athletic, does it?
No, you can't even do it enough. I mean, I'm the same. I mean, the positions you see people get the golf clubs in, exaggerating, looking for power, right? So keep it cleaner and simpler. And then you allude to the third thing, which is the old keep the elbow to the ribs trick, which I also don't like.
No, and I think a lot of times this is an overreaction, trying to get rid of, like I said, what they think is that chicken wing, you know? They take their elbow and they kick it way down and they put it to their ribs, which, like I say, causes a lot of problems. Two of the main ones being that when you keep your elbow down and you turn, it totally messes up my coil. It messes up my wind.
I don't even know how I would throw a ball from here. I think the slicer, Jake, the slicers too feel like, well, if it slices out here, I'm just going to glue everything in here. How could I possibly slice? But the faulty logic is if you're so far back here, you actually have to throw the club to get back to the ball. So it can cause a slice as well. But it also narrows the arc. Look how small my little circle is as opposed to swinging my club.
Well, you just said throwing it, right? If I put it here, I'm probably not going to be able to throw very far.
So here's the aha moment, everybody. If your elbow is up too much, what's the opposite of up? The opposite of up is down. The opposite of up is not in. So tucking your elbow in to avoid a chicken wing, really it doesn't even correlate. All right, so here's a drill to help you. My favorite term, and I didn't use it back in 2007, it's from Byron Nelson, saying that trailing arm should float and then fold into an L. And I really love that. If you swing with one arm, everybody, and just let the club swing, and then just turn it over into an L position, you're in a really good spot. And I would argue that's sort of where I'd throw a ball from, that position there, delivery position. I'll keep my lead arm on the club and do the same thing. I swing, float, and then fold into an L. And I get that club in a really nice delivery position so I can play better golf. So keep your elbows together, keep them pointed down. Let that back arm swing a little bit and keep the club in front of you, and learn from a football throw, learn from a baseball throw. Just a nice delivery position, you'll play better golf.
Absolutely.
Okay, Jake, it's time for the moment of truth, everybody. Check these babies out. Super Tax from probably 2005.
Oh, probably, yeah.
They still feel fine. I don't think I've had them on in about 6 years. So, anyway, this might be the second most memorable thing I've done teaching golf in 30 years. The first is the first day I put them on.
Yeah.
Scott McLeod and I back in 2007. We didn't know if I could hit a ball or not, but I said, you know, your legs are supposed to be quiet and balanced in golf. So I bet you, I use that analogy all the time, Jake, about, you know, the edge of your skate, not losing your edge, right? So I don't know why we thought of this, but we did the sports thing and I decided to put the skates on and try to hit a ball.
Oh, I think it's a great visual. I mean, like you said, when you turn into your back leg and when you turn your body in golf, you want that weight and that pressure to stay on the inside edge of your foot. And, you know, we equate it to a pitcher stepping on a pitcher's mound, a quarterback planting to throw the ball, or I think the most obvious one is staying on the inside edge of your skate or a ski.
Or a ski. Yeah, I always say to people, what happens if you lose the edge in skating or skiing? You end up on your bum on the ice or the snow.
Yeah.
And in golf, you have to think about it that way. If you sway in golf and lose the edge, then you don't have that pivot post. We've talked about today already a little bit to step into it like a baseball batter, right? But the other concept is quietness. I've always taught, you know, not a static lower body, but a quieter, supporting lower body, right? That restricts against that big windup of that upper body, the arm swing and the chest turn. You know, we did a tip too. I think we did one, Jake, for Tip Tuesday, you and I, about should you lift that front heel or not, and maybe talk about that a little bit in the concept of being able to hit a golf ball with a pair of skates on.
Yeah, I think, well, especially with a pair of skates on. If you turn your body in your backswing, and as you turn your body, you want that weight to load into your back leg, but you want it to move to the inside of your foot, like we said. That allows you to then shift that weight or shift that pressure into your lead foot and turn through the golf ball. If the pressure or the weight gets to the outside of the foot, you're pooched. And for a lot of people, the reason their front foot comes
You're pooched.
is because when they over-rotate their hips or they sway their hips, their weight goes too much to the outside of their back heel more specifically, and that's usually when your foot either comes up. Either that, or you almost actually go forward onto your lead toe, and your knee kind of comes forward to brace and support you. Both of those things are going to feel mighty strange to skate.
Now, having said that, I don't mind if your foot comes up a little bit. Stylistically, for rhythm, allows you to finish your backswing. You like to lift that front heel a little bit.
I think it's very fair.
But I think that to turn your chest fully 90 degrees, that foot really doesn't have to come up. The lead knee comes in a little bit. The knees turn about 20 degrees as you load and wind up.
Yeah.
But we don't want the foot pulled off the ground, right? And obviously here, with nothing but a little tiny blade supporting me on both feet, I've got to have quieter leg action.
For sure. It really isolates what we're talking about and shows you, everybody, how you need to keep everything centered and loaded and ready to go.
Yeah, so let's show you. I'm going to step up carefully. My blades are kind of digging into the turf here, but I get set up, and if you watch me just kind of rotate back, you'll see this one cants in a little bit, but this one holds its ground, right? And obviously I need to be in nice posture to be in the middle of my blades to do this. So back we go, and then a little more complicated going forward. Hard to hit a full shot, but it's certainly doable. Are you ready?
Let's do it.
Have we missed anything on leg action? I mean, it's reactive in the backswing. The lead foot can come up a little bit if it either does with your rhythm or it allows you to turn properly better. But quiet, flexed legs are certainly a benefit to the majority of golfers.
Absolutely. The really simple way to say that, everybody, is if you turn with balance and you keep everything well balanced and structured, it'll be easier to hit the golf ball with power and consistency.
All right, speaking of balance, and it's just dawned on me, I haven't hit any shots today. So it's first swing of the day.
And skates.
And in a pair of skates.
Yes.
Yeah. This should be a doozy.
I wish we had practice for, right?
I wish we had our flight scope behind us to get the numbers on this one. But here we go. Little wider stance. See how I'm using the edge of that blade? Stay in the middle of my feet. Let's rotate back and hit it.
Good.
Hey, it's airborne.
You're pretty good at this,
Not
actually.
bad. So I get that feeling. That didn't even feel that different. But of course, very stiff and rigid moving with footwork to a finish. But I'd say about 240 and up in the air. Not bad.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think we're saying at least, that everybody should go do this, right? Put skates on and go on either a grass tee or some asphalt.
I think everyone should have to do it once. I think everyone should have to do it.
But I do think that the visual is very, very eye-opening, right? And thinking about your pressure and weight in your feet like you were wearing a pair of skates, I think can really help you and help you practice both good balance, but using your energy and power properly.
Love it. That completes our sports comparison feature for Flagstick. Thanks to Jeff and Scott for another awesome feature season and another memorable one for us. Play well, everybody.